Game of the year, number 4. And I was debating whether or not this was going to be actually a consideration for Game of the Year, but you know what I think it is? Because I have to go back to the experience I had when I was messing around with shit. And when I was like first playing this game and experiencing all the stuff that's in it and how it presents itself and what you are doing. And Game of the Year number 4 for me is Monster Hunter Rise. Monster Hunter Rise starts off so damn strong. It's hard to go back and think of like when you were playing it when it came out compared to what it eventually turns into, which isn't as satisfying as the previous game. Hang on a second. Monster Hunter Rise dropped earlier this year, and for me, this game is an interesting experience because, ignore the double me's, by the way. I'm going to cover that up because that's now going to be distracting as hell. This game is an interesting experience because I don't think Monster Hunter Rise is as good as Monster Hunter World and Monster Hunter World Iceborne because, well, it's kind of unfair because this game hasn't gotten its big expansion yet. And the big thing is that so much of Monster Hunter, like the majority of playtime you have in these games, is played beyond that first playthrough. And I realize that now, as someone that does not have a lot of monster hunting experience throughout all of these games, you realize how much of your dedication and time goes into the end game. After you get to high rank and you start like looking for mons and hunting and getting your good stuff. That is such a substantial element that once again, I had to go back and think about the first time I played through this and how great it was. And yeah, there is parts of Monster Hunter Rise, regardless of its system performance and issues of being on the Switch and stuff like that and being 30 FPS, there is stuff in this game that is ridiculously fun. Like arguable, in my opinion, more engaging and more fun than any of like the Monster Hunter games that I've ever tried recently or in the past. And that's because of the wire bug mechanic. It's weird when we're thinking about the PC version of this game, which is going to be dropping like literally a week. And I'm actively looking forward to it. And I compare that to my experience with Monster Hunter World. And the PC version of that came out and I ultimately just did not do anything with it. I thought it looked great and I'm like, dang, the PC version of this is amazing. But I didn't invest any time into it. Mostly because thinking about reliving the low rank slash like opening of high rank experience in World again, as I was going through it, I'm like, dude, this is rough. Like this shit, going through all of this again and just like fighting these young mobs that are only so engaging and stuff, like this stuff is not, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through this again. I don't know if I want to try to do any of this again. And here's the funny thing. The end game of Monster Hunter World and Monster Hunter World Iceborne is pretty great. They give you a lot of stuff to do and a lot of like crazy big monsters to hunt. And there was a lot of very frequent expansions of monsters and content that they put in there very swiftly. Unfortunately, Monster Hunter Rise didn't get the same treatment, right? It did not get the same very quick post-game support that it felt like Monster Hunter World initially did. But here's the more important thing, and here's why it's deserving of my top 4 game of the year. Playing this game is so much goddamn fun. Movement and mobility is such a crucial part of action games and how you actually move and pivot your character around your enemies. And holy sweet Jesus, dude. Not to mention what we're just looking at right now, like the way you can actually pilot and move and control monsters. I feel like they went so ham with this game. There was like a kitchen sink of Monster Hunter shit that they've been wanting to try, and they're like, well, we just got this little Switch Monster Hunter game. We're just gonna do everything we've been trying to do over the years. We're gonna have you control monsters. We're gonna have you have crazy vertical environments. We're gonna have you have more mobility than the series has essentially ever offered the player. And they just threw it in here. And believe it or not, it usually would come across as like a horrible mishmash and an unfocused nightmare, but it doesn't. Like, this game is insane. Yeah, I agree. This is like an experimental Monster Hunter game in many ways. And it does make some parts of the game, quote unquote, like too easy. It does feel like the hunter is a little too powerful. but they alleviate that a bit later because some of the later monsters definitely get ramped up in difficulty, which is good. I think that's one of my only big gripes of this game is that it was a bit too easy because the hunters are so goddamn OP. You have access to so much shit, and the monsters are mostly doing very similar things that they kind of were doing in previous games. However, you know, we're at a situation where the game does not have its super high rank, its G rank. So from this point forward, similar what we were talking with in the previous couple of games that didn't make top 5, Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, as well as Ghost of Tsushima, Iki Island, it's going to be the same thing. They're going to improve upon a lot of the shit that went wrong at the launch of Monster Hunter Rise. And they're going to, I guarantee you, there's going to be way more challenging stuff and way more engaging stuff that is going to be added to this game. But for some reason, like, and I think it's honestly a great thing that the front-loaded part of Monster Hunter Rise is so engaging and incredible to, like, learn shit. Way more than my experience was with Monster Hunter World. Even though what I found to be the end game content, not nearly as engaging. So that's a big take for me personally. I also got to give a huge mention. How the hell is the Switch running this game? Like, there is so many crazy shortcuts that this engine is able to produce, the RE engine that Capcom has. They truly have a diamond in the rough with this shit to make this game playable in the way that it actually does. Granted, it's only like 30 FPS. Granted, its resolution isn't super high. But the fact that, like, the online systems work as good as they do, and that you can just play with people and it sort of is functioning like a PlayStation 4 / even beyond kind of game, it's really crazy. Especially if you're on, you know, handheld mode. It's kind of like, damn, how is this getting away with this? This is kind of nuts. On 2012 hardware, yeah, essentially that's what it is. You have to give the game huge props in that regard. Like, all the crazy, like, rigging shit. Maybe not like textures, but like the rigging stuff that comes with riding monsters and engaging with. All of that felt supernatural. You have to put yourself into perspective where you have a crazy experimental Monster Hunter game that essentially allows you to mount shit, right? You literally have mounts. You can also mount and pilot other monsters with a crazy amount of mobility where you're engaging with creatures and the environment in ways that you never have before. That how does the game not completely fall apart, right? All these ridiculous concepts executed in a way that works. That is some true ass Capcom magic, you know? This is where the true credit is due. Very few developers are able to execute in so many like bizarre like gameplay concepts that are completely alien to the series and then execute it in a way that fucking works. And that's honestly one of the most bonkers elements of Monster Hunter World in my opinion. I'm sorry, Monster Hunter Rise in my opinion. So I really enjoyed this game. In fact, going back and looking at this, I am very much looking forward to the PC version. I keep forgetting it is like a week away. And just thinking of going through this and smacking Mons again and learning a new weapon. Good Lord, dude, the weapons in this game. Oh my God. I did not come across a weapon that wasn't fun. And I think I played like 7 or 8 different weapons. Holy shit, dude. The weapons in this game were ridiculous. Hammer, I've never played it before. Look at this shit. It's so much fun. And maybe it's because they made the hunters too OP, and like you get new switch skills and all this crazy shit. And goddamn, imagine how that's gonna happen in Sunbreak. But granted, I have to give this game a glowing amount of praise. This was a super fun Monster Hunter game, and I was not ready for it to be as good as it was. I think it had no right to be as good as it was because going through that single player content, I almost wish I went through it slower and just like soaked it up a bit. And when Sunbreak comes out, and thank God it's coming out on PC, I think that might be a very high contender for like a Game of the Year nomination for 2022. Considering if it's just an expanded and more engaging and more monsters and more weapon skills and more crazy mobility, if it just does more of this, dude. And it's running at like 144 hertz on PC. Sunbreak is like summer. That might be a big game. That might be a very fantastic game. We're not even talking about the fact that people are going to mod the shit out of this game when it eventually comes out on PC. The PC version is going to get graphics mods. It's going to get all this crazy turf works and fuzz works, and fans are going to stick all this nutty shit into the game. It's going to be dope, man. I can't wait. I can't wait. So yeah, my number 4 game of the year is Monster Hunter Rise. And even though I kind of forgot that this game came out this year, upon like revisiting my thoughts and revisiting that first playthrough of low rank to high rank, it was great. And it was so much better than what I remember outside of the initial honeymoon phase of Monster Hunter World, because I actively want to do it again. I want to go back and I want to play it again. And I really can't say the same when the PC version of Monster Hunter World eventually came out. So good on you, Capcom. This is one experimental ass crazy action game. And believe it or not, it actually works and it's fun as shit.